Welcome, race fans, to this week's edition of TunnelTurn.com. It's finally above 60 degrees here in New Hampshire. Ready to go racing.
Who said? Boris said. If you watched Watkins Glen, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That seems to be the chant of the week. Who'd have thought that Biff and Boris said would have got into a heated battle after the race, after Boris seemingly took out David Reagan, who shot into David Ruderman, and man, that car exploded into a million pieces into the wall. That was a pretty violent crash. But before we get to that, Friday night I checked out some local racetrack action. I took my kids to Lee Speedway. We couldn't have had a better night. It was awesome. It was only $10 for adults, and kids under 13, I believe, were free. So for $10, we brought 3 kids with us, had a couple adults go, and we had a great time. The racing there was unbelievable. It was awesome. During the hobby stock class, I don't know what was up with those guys, but for whatever reason, they could not restart those cars. Every time they came around to try to do a restart with the race, they kept jumping the gun, and they did that for about 3 times, and finally, it got to the point where the flag man got so mad, he came out of the flag stand, went down to the racetrack, and started yelling at the guys. He took the first car and put it to the rear of the field, and then they tried to restart the class again, and then the next guy did the same thing. And that totally jumbled up the field. So the flag man came back down, stopped all the cars, and rearranged everybody, and then they were finally able to get underway again. And when the modifieds raced, there was a 4-car pileup on turn 3 and 4 where I was sitting. 2 of the guys got out of the modified race, and they started swinging at each other. Then all of a sudden, the local police tried to arrest one of the guys, saying something to him. God knows what happened. And that guy took off down the speedway, running as fast as he could from the local PD. It was a pretty crazy night. There was more action than that than there is at the NASCAR races. It was unbelievable. But the kids had a great time. They got a great show for sure. And if you're around New Hampshire, definitely check out Lee Speedway on like a Friday night. It was great racing. The facility is really clean. It's awesome. It's been around forever. And it's the first time I've checked it out, so definitely check it out. This is where grassroots racing comes from. This is a local Saturday night and Friday night, stock car races. That's where all the fun's at and the action's at. It's pretty cool. So after the Glen, there was a rain postponed race. The race was supposed to be Sunday, and it rained out, so they had the race on Monday. And I totally didn't get to watch it. I watched, the highlights and stuff like that on my DVR, but then couldn't find it on the DVR because I was on ESPN at like 10 o'clock, and the channels, the programming didn't catch up with it, so I ended up watching it over the internet, and man, that looked like an awesome race. It was really cool. Kurt Busch took a hard hit into the wall. Seemed like he lost his brakes. Denny Hamlin, he popped a tire, which in turn, I think, cut a brake line down. So he lost his brakes also. He went into the wall. It was just some real crazy racing over there. It looked like it was a pretty action-packed race. I wish I could have watched the whole thing. If you watched the very end of the race, I was bummed out because Earnhardt was running like 21st. Then on the green-white checkered restart, Boris said clipped David Reagan, shot him into Ruderman, and Ruderman ping-ponged back and forth across the track. His car exploded into a million pieces, flipped upside down. It was a real violent-looking wreck. Definitely watch that on NASCAR.com. But it was good to see him walk out of the car, and he was unhurt, which was really good. But after the race, Boris said went over to Greg Biffle's trailer and started with him about, I guess Greg Biffle told him it was number 1 out the window going around the track, so Boris had a beef with that, and Greg Biffle kind of said to him, "What are you in my face for? Why don't you go to Ruderman's trailer and see how he's doing? And, don't swing by here and stop picking a fight." And so now it's Wednesday, and I guess Boris called Biffle last night, and the two of them, from what I read, talked on the phone, and everything's okay with them. So rolling into Michigan, I guess we'll see what happens. Earnhardt has dropped 1 point to 9th. Tony Stewart, I think, ended up finishing 27th. At Watkins Glen. He was running in the top 10 like all day, from what I saw, and he spun out, like I think it was on the last lap, and it put him to the rear of the field. Earnhardt was able to, I guess, drive around that wreck, and he finished 14th. So Stewart went up to 10th in points. Earnhardt's down to 9th. I think Carl Edwards, I'm doing this all off the top of my head, went down to 2nd, I think. So there's definitely been a little bit of a mix-up in the points this week. But rolling into Michigan, for all of Junior Nation, this is Earnhardt's track. He typically runs well there. Could we see him win this week? We'll have to wait and see. But, until Sunday, we can only hope. So definitely keep checking out the tunnelturn.com. We haven't done a video in a little while since Loud, and I've been kind of on the road doing some stuff. But we'll do weekly videos from here on in. So check back every day. I blog every day. And definitely tell a race buddy. Take care. Until then, we'll see you next week. Bye.